Travis Wayne Goodsell. So, I've been doing videos on YouTube since 2014, but more dominantly in 15, going over how Mormons have gotten Joseph Smith and scriptures incorrect. And it wasn't until the end of 2017 when the videos of necessity had to logically conclude that the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints is false. And therefore I'm a critic. And this is not acceptable by Mormons. I have to deny science, I have to deny logic, and spin everything to favor the church, or else I'm the enemy. Doesn't matter if Joseph Smith is confirmed true. Doesn't matter if the Book of Mormon is confirmed true. It's not the truth that Mormons want to hear. And so Mormons are therefore in denial that the scriptures themselves tell them to use logic and science. In Matthew chapter 7, verse 15, it says, "Beware of false prophets, which come to you in sheep's clothing, but inwardly they are ravening wolves." And so obviously you're not going to take this literally and accuse me of wearing sheep's clothing. This is cotton. And I'm obviously human, not a wolf. This is not what the scripture is telling us. And so he goes on in verse 16, "Ye shall know them, false prophets, and likewise true prophets, by their fruits." Mormons don't see this as the science of agronomy. Christians don't either. And so by denying the science, Mormons alter the passage in James. Faith without works is dead. And so Mormons believe in, just as Christians do, faith without works. And it's called a spiritual witness. And so it doesn't talk about seed here. For that, you have to go to the Book of Mormon. In Alma, chapter 32, starting in verse 28, after a discourse on faith, which parallels Hebrews 11, "Now we will compare the word unto a seed." Agronomy, science, here in the Book of Mormon, just like in the Bible. And so it goes over the process on how to turn the word into fruit, that you may know if it is a good word or a bad word, a true word or a false word. Logic. It's right here in scriptures, and yet we're lied to in the church. That lie should make all Mormons leave the church, and you don't. And instead, by believing the lie and promoting the lie, you then also are weaponized to attack with unsound arguments and anti-science attacks against me and other people. Had a Mormon who saw an older video of mine because of the recent change in algorithms of YouTube to keep me from getting views further after the unfortunate rush of views with conference done away with. Come on. It's supposed to be improving. I was just forced to do the latest update. And so on the video I did, LDS Church to release new English Scripture Quad for April 2023 General Conference. And so if you haven't been following me, you wouldn't understand what I mean by that. If you had been following me, you'd know exactly what I mean by that. This has to do with the Joseph Smith papers being released by the church. There are changes that need to be made, not only with church history, but with the scriptures. And thus why I emphasize the changes that need to be made. And yes, as a result, it means that this church is lying to us. And so David Lordan, which the picture seems cartoonishly fake, but nonetheless, he should have watched that video and went, oh crap, I'm in the great and abominable church of false prophets. Because logically, that's what it means, because they are anti-science. Nope. Instead, he was weaponized and he attacked. He says, I think you need help. This is where he has been weaponized by psychology. Psychology is anti-science also. That's why the church uses it in family services and have pushed it in their BYUs. Why Utah allows it in the school systems. And why they keep going on an anti-porn crusade to cause harm rather than help. If they wanted to help, they'd pass out condoms in class. Rather than telling them to use abstinence only. You're not going to stop teens. So at least make sure they're safe. But nope. The church will come down and punish you. And then victim blame you for the problems they themselves cause. But nonetheless, this is an abusive comment. It's a hate comment. Because he's using the scientific tactic of name-calling. You need help. I'm mentally retarded. I'm mentally ill. I'm crazy. I'm whacked out. I need to take drugs, etc., etc., etc. All of that is abusive. He's not a professional psychologist, and yet, as all bullies do, they use the falsehood of psychology as a bullying tactic. And thus the reason why they no longer use the term mentally retarded, because it has been made into pop culture slur. And so he feels bad for me. Bleep you. This is rambling and a false title. Beam and mote, that's a scripture in case you didn't know, has to do with making false accusations. Fallacy arguments. It's not a false title. He doesn't want to understand the interpretation of it and the consequences of what it means. And so he says, I hope you feel better. Bleep you. I've even had psychologists come on here using the same thing, just like bullies. Also, Mormon is offensive. Is it? Who said it was offensive? Oh, that Nelson guy, huh? He didn't watch the other videos that I did a rush on that also. Mormon has been accepted by the Christ of Joseph Smith. It wasn't offensive to him. It wasn't offensive to Brigham Young all the way up to Monson. It was only Nelson's Jesus who all of a sudden decided it was offensive. Did you not catch on to that? Ex-Mormons did. So who's really the dumbass? I had a friend from West Valley, for those of you who remember back then, who were sticking around still since then, whose name also was Russell. And I was helping him with a project that would make his life easier because of his disability. And he knew that I no longer attended church. He didn't know why, though talking with my non-existent ex, thanks to Catholic annulments, it makes marriage complicated. Was I married, or did it never happen at all? It's one of the mysteries of God. But nonetheless, it's in Utah law, and such is the case. So we never had a relationship. We were never sealed in the... Wait a minute, we are still sealed in the Salt Lake Temple. Number 13, it hasn't been canceled. But wait, the state of Utah says we never did get married in the Salt Lake Temple. What's going on? Catholics. But, yeah, he had a secret crush on her, and she was in denial that he did. But as a guy, I knew he did. But after Nelson came out and made that change to weaponize Mormons to be offended, which offense is a sin, in case you didn't know, yeah, he used it against me. Because I would say LDS Church, Mormon, as is common in our English language of shortened speech patterns as best we can. Because we don't like to use full communication to fully explain what we mean. Just look at text messages. Case in point. It's just a further way to condense the language to as quick language as we can make it. LOL. and so, yeah, he got angry with me. His repression of my not going to church and no longer being married, but having been married, but not married, was seeping through that one morning. And so, yeah, I stopped helping him. If he is going to be abusive towards me after all I've done for him, he obviously was a fraudulent friend. I now know him by his fruits. So I know David too by his fruits. And he says, I hope you find happiness and truth. See, he's denying logic, he's denying science with his anti-logic fallacy arguments and anti-science comment. This is the sad reality of Mormonism. And it's not just a matter of the church just being a regular religion, just like all the other Christian religions, which would therefore make it beg the question, why do we need to be a member of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints when other religions don't require us to pay tithing? They're the same. They're Christian too. They don't demand we pay tithing for the rest of our lives. Wouldn't it be more financially prudent to be other Christian than Mormon? I mean, Latter-day Saint of Jesus Christ? It's just stupid. Joseph Smith's technical name for his church at his death was the Church of Latter-day Saints, not the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. That's what we've been lied to about. And so LDS Church is an acronym and is approved by the Christ of Joseph Smith. That is actually the correct title. But not a single Mormon who have become weaponized by Nelson will acknowledge that. They now say Jesus is offended. Jesus is angry with that name of his church? Yeah, it's not his church. That's the whole point Mormons will not accept. This church lies to us, claiming Joseph Smith and the Book of Mormon as theirs when it does not belong to them. The interpretation is false. It is not Joseph's interpretation. And so, when I do my scientific-based logic argument videos, showing what the truth is, Mormons see me as Korahor. Because yes, it is against the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. But here's the kicker. Because this church is false, they're covering up what Joseph Smith was trying to warn you about, Mormons. And you were too offended that you couldn't even last 20 minutes of this video to learn that they're going to murder you this year, as they've been murdering you all this time. But there's a big event coming, and I'm not going to repeat yet again why this is the bicentennial year of the second vision, which is what I just did.